government has launched an aggressive hunt for persons responsible for the collapse of some banks in the recent banking sector cleanup, picking up arguably Ghana's most celebrated businessman, Prince Kofi Amoabeng, who founded the now defunct UT Bank. We have details of this and the arrest of another celebrated businessman, Mike Nyenaku. Mike also founded Beige Bank, which turned out to be highly successful until its liquidation. Correspondent Parker Wilson has been on this beat for us, and he will join us shortly for details of the arrest and the court case. But first, listen to Mr. Amoabeng speaking at the Joy Business Financial Service Forum in September last year.
And I'll be straight about it, as I said. In UT's case, about a month to UT's closure, we had a meeting with the Bank of Ghana, and we were promised that with that, the investor we brought, within a few weeks, we're going to evaluate it and then get back to us so we have an EGM to inform our shareholders. And we're a listed company. Now, 1 week to the 14th of August, when UT was surrogated, a letter was written by Bank of Ghana to our investor that they didn't like the investment. We were not even copied, but that investor was our investor. Then you look at the way UT was arrogated. It didn't need policemen at dawn 6 a.m. as if it's a rolling school. And then GCB staff and the press at 6 a.m. to close a bank, and then go and destroy the signages as if it's some satanic shrine. Now, why I'm saying that is that is not how banks are closed down, and there must be a process. And I love it. I mean, I'm not saying UT should have been kept at all cost. If UT wasn't doing well, and the government decides that for whatever reason it will close it down as the process requires. Now we have issues where other banks were closed down under different circumstances. Then you don't know, depending on who is giving the instructions. And I tell you, the governor that I met, that is Dr. Addison, is a decent gentleman, and he has merit. I'm sure he's a good governor. So how come he can act anyhow? In other words, the political parties that we have, and it's everywhere in Africa, they interfere with the appointment of the people. Either they will appoint somebody who hasn't got the merit, or you appoint somebody who has a merit but who pull the strings. So this cleanup, which is not complete, as my friend here said, is going to come back again because the powers that be will go around proper corporate governance and regulators, because they put them there and they will still pull the strings. So for Ghana, we have a problem, and in the whole of Africa, we have a problem. Because I don't know who is instructing people to act differently on different occasions. I will just buttress the point with the increased minimum capital of 400. Some banks were left giving some time to find the 400. Some banks merged, they didn't have it, but wait, the government says go. Some banks, for strategic reasons, they shouldn't touch them. Some banks, government will raise money to back them up to make the 400. Who does that? What kind of economy are we running? It's so subjective, so haphazard. If we don't get our leaders, and I don't know how, to actually respect the people and respect systems and institutions, this crisis will come back again.
Mr. Amoabeng there speaking earlier, this was last year, pointing to what he believes to be some discrimination and people pulling strings. But earlier today, President Akufo-Addo spoke on this matter. He addressed participants at the New Year School at the University of Ghana.
We have begun bringing those responsible for the banking crisis to justice. We have one case in court, and if prima facie evidence of criminality is found in the other ongoing investigations, which according to my information is likely, then the perpetrators of the crises, i.e. both regulators and individuals, will face justice soon. We had to take painful but necessary measures to sanitize and save the banking system. In effect, 12.58 billion Ghana cedis of public funds was injected into the 9 banks and many microfinance institutions following their malfunction. It is worthy to note, however, that the jobs of some 6,500 workers were saved as a result, instead of the 10,000 that could have been lost, in addition to the protection of funds of 4.6 million depositors. We have also ensured the creation of a strong set of indigenous banks. The latest banking sector report of the Bank of Ghana reveals that as of October 2019, the banks posted a profit of 2.9 billion cedis, representing a 45% increase over that of 2018, as the reforms initiated by the central bank begin to take effect.
Well, today 2 people were picked up and they were processed for court already. I told you earlier on that founder of the UT Bank, Mr. Prince Kofiam Amoaben himself was one of them. Founder, CEO of the defunct Beige Bank has also been remanded in police custody. The circuit courts that also granted bail to Mr. Amoaben, who is facing charges of stealing and money laundering. My colleague, Kwesi Parker Wilson, covered that for us. Parker joins me on the line with more. Hello, Parker.
Yeah, hello, Gifty.
Parker, bring us up to speed. First about the arrest of Mr. Amoaben, and then we move on to the former CEO of Beige Bank.
Okay, so we picked up information this morning that the police prosecutors have given him a call to appear before the circuit courts this morning. And so we quickly rushed to the court, and indeed, we realized that the CEO of Defunct UT Bank, Prince Kofiam Amoaben, is at the court. In fact, he hung around for quite some time, let's say an hour, before the judge eventually came to court for the court proceedings to begin. And for the police prosecutors, what they were requesting for was that even though investigations are ongoing, they want the court to compel Mr. Amoaben to deposit his passport to the court as investigations are ongoing, and also ensure that he reports to the police 2 days within a week, preferably on Mondays and Fridays. But the lawyer for Kofiam Amoaben was quite surprised that his client has been cooperating with the CID, with IOCO, for the past 2 years now. Investigations are yet to be concluded, and yet his client has been dragged to the court. So he was quite surprised about that. But again, he advanced his argument by saying that, well, he doesn't have a problem with the request being made by the police prosecutors, but one of the things he wants to say is that his client, over the years gone by, has been cooperating with the police. There were times he was out of the jurisdiction, he was called upon to come and assist in investigation. He cut off his trip and returned to the country to assist with the investigation. That's with IOCO and then with the CID as well. So clearly, his client has demonstrated that at any point in time, when he's called upon to assist with investigation as far as the closure of UT Bank is concerned, he'll make himself readily available. And the second point is that he only has one place of abode, which is here in Ghana, and that he also has a number of companies across the country. So there is no way his client will fold the companies and leave the country, not for any reason. So he pleaded with the judge to grant his client bail and ensure that as the investigations are ongoing, his client will be available to assist with investigation. And in fact, the 2 charges, as you mentioned, stealing and money laundering, Mr. Kofiam Amoaben said that he was not guilty to the 2 charges, but he denied being guilty, and that his client made those arguments for him. And eventually, the court granted him bail to the sum of about 110 million Ghana cedis.
110 million Ghana cedis, Parker. That's a lot of money. Did his lawyers say anything? Did they contest?
Yes, and Gifty, this is basically because of the fact as presented by the prosecutor that Mr. Amoaben allegedly misappropriated about 51 million Ghana cedis and also $8 million, which actually contributed to the collapse of UT Bank. And based on that, the judge calculated and said that he's going to grant him bail of 110 million Ghana cedis. And interestingly, you see, with two sureties, and these two sureties, they are persons who their salary should not be less than 2,000 Ghana cedis. So that is it for Kofi Amwabin.
But just a quick one before you move on to Beige Capital's CEO, the defunct Beige Capital CEO. We see Mr. Amwabin in this photo, these photos that were rolling, looking very hearty. Talk to us about his demeanor today when you saw him in court.
I didn't hear that.
Yes, Parker, I'm saying that we're seeing a photo of him today, and it looks like this was in court. He looks very hearty. Talk to us about his demeanor generally today in court.
Yes, in fact, he was very calm. I mean, he insisted that he hasn't committed any crime or hasn't been involved in any wrongdoing, and expressed shock that a case that has been going on for quite some time now, and he has been accepting investigation. He's been called upon to just come to court for trials. But apart from that, was quite calm. By the way, a blue-black suit and was smiling, having a happy conversation with the board chairman of the defunct UT Bank and some other friends this afternoon.
Okay, let's move on to the defunct Beige Bank. The CEO today was remanded in police custody. Tell us about all of that.
Well, that's correct. In fact, the lawyer for Mike Yineku made the same argument that the client has been cooperating with the police and the CID for some time. But unfortunately for him, the judge ruled that the lawyer has not convinced him enough that the client should be really available when he's called upon to come and assist in investigation. And so he's going to remand him to police custody for a week and to ensure that at least everything is done for him to have a feel that anytime Yineku is called upon to assist the investigation, he will be available. In fact, the lawyer was quite upset that, again, this is a case that has been ongoing, and the client is already on police inquiry bail. So he's surprised that the judge will remand his client to police custody 1 week. In fact, the judge insisted that that is his final decision. He's not going to change it. So the police picked him up, and what we don't know, Gifty, is that whether he's going to the BNI or police, we don't know. We wanted to speak to his lawyer because he was upset with the outcome of today's proceeding. He refused to grant me an interview, so we're not too sure where it's going to be. But the judge was clear in his mind that it should be within the police custody this 1 week.
Bottom line, he is not sleeping in his home today, and he will be sleeping wherever he will be sleeping for the next 1 week. Parker, thank you for that update. Kwesi Parker Wilson there following up on that story for us. So if you're just tuning in, you do know that the former CEO or the CEO of defunct UT Bank and CEO of defunct Beige Bank, the UT Bank CEO has been granted bail with a sum of 111 million cedis, whilst the CEO for the defunct Beige Bank has been remanded in police custody.